Well, hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's the Red Shadow again, and I, for one, am trying to get this at least recorded and hopefully uploaded on time. It's early in the morning, Sunday the morning of April 30th, so it's early, and therefore if I do look tired, which I'm sure I'm going to, it's because I kind of am. I should have done this a few hours ago. But anyway, all of my stuff is in for the month, so I thought I would try to prevent the last few months worth of taking my sweet time or not being motivated to sit down and do these pickups. So I've got a CD, a movie, 2 books, which is cool, and a pile of 8 games. So let's just go ahead and jump on into it. So we'll start with the CD that I got this month. This is the new Ellie Goulding CD. This is Higher Than Heaven. This is the deluxe edition that I ordered from her website. I'm a big fan of hers. I have all of her CDs. I have all of her proper CDs. Not a lot of these reissues that come up from time to time. But I just wanted to point out on this one, aside from the fact that I don't know when I will actually listen to this, because I don't really have a CD player in my house anymore. Aside from older consoles I rarely use in my computer. But this will go on the small stack of stuff I've gotten recently that I probably won't listen to anytime soon. Sad fact that I just don't make as much time for music as I used to. The next thing I'm going to show here is the one and only movie I got this week. I actually got this in yesterday, Saturday the 29th. This is BloodRayne, The Third Reich. This is the third in the BloodRayne trilogy of movies that was released over the years. Yeah, this is still an Uwe Boll one. I guess he was there for all of them. I'm not a fan of Uwe Boll. I have never played a BloodRayne game. I'm familiar with them, but I've never really ever got my hands on with them. But for whatever reason or another, the first BloodRayne movie is the only Uwe Boll movie that I've seen that I actually liked. Now, I get it that it's not good, and none of his movies are really all that great, but I guess just as kind of a posterity thing, I want to get all 3 of the movies for BloodRayne, so I'm still trying to pick up the second one. And then I think I showed it on the big pickups video when I kind of came back tail end of last year. I think I showed the double pack of basically the remastered BloodRaynes 1 and 2. I just kind of want to have them as a set, but I'm not going to collect Uwe Boll movies in general because most of his stuff is shit, and I don't want to support it. I especially don't want to support the few other movies he's done of games that I really like. Like there was a Far Cry movie and etc. Alright, so we got the 2 books. The first thing here is a Final Fantasy VII Remake book called Traces of Two Pasts. This is a novelization, but it's not of the remake video game, excuse me, but it's sort of a companion story that apparently deals with Aerith and Tifa. And I just thought, it wasn't exceedingly expensive. And I saw that it was up for pre-order on Walmart.com, which is where I got my copy, and it said it wasn't coming out until sometime in May. So I thought, yeah, I'll just go ahead and snag it now. And then like a week and a half later, it said, it's being shipped to you. And I thought, am I getting it early, or did they change the date? But I think it was just Walmart.com not sharing the correct information. So I know it's going to be a while before I get to play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but I thought I would have this book as something to carry me over in that time frame before I can get my chance to get a PS5 and get the new game. And then I got this sent in the mail from a friend of mine as payment for some digital movie codes that I gave to them. They sent me Borderlands 2 Game of the Year Edition Guide. This is sealed, and it's a nice hardcover book. I'm not super into the Borderlands games, but I was trying to give them a try, and I'm going to be trying to spend more time with them in the future. But it's just awesome to have such a cool looking new strategy guide to go on the shelf with all my other strategy guides. And yeah, it's just super nice looking, and apparently it covers, looks like all of the Borderlands 2 DLC, I guess Game of the Year edition, that would give that away. So there is all of that, and now we'll start on the games. A fair amount of limited run games that I had pre-ordered showed up this last month. So I'll start with the first one here, which is Asdivine Cross. This is another in the long-running series of Kemco JRPG games that Limited Run Games has put out physicals for, and the Asdivine appears to be a long-running series that they have over there. I have like Asdivine Cross and Asdivine Heart and Asdivine, like 2 or 3 others, I believe, that I own, and there's probably more of them out there. I just always take a good close look at these, and if they look interesting, if I like the way the animation, the graphical style, and the gameplay looks, then I just pick those up. Alright, the next thing I have here is a game that I saw shared on some of the Facebook groups that I'm on, and I thought it looked kind of cool because it had Pikmin-like elements. I've never played a Pikmin game. They didn't even really interest me all that much, but I thought this game looks cool, and it's something I can get on PS4, and I thought, well, I'll try a Pikmin-style game. This game is called The Wild at Heart. The main thing that caught me on this was this animation style. It has a really cool look to it, and it's not very expensive. I think I got this one also on Walmart.com for $25 or less. So I'm just going to give that one a try here at some point in the future. See if the Pikmin games do anything for me. It may just be a matter of I don't really like the visual style and look of the Pikmin games, but this one did it for me with its animation. Alright, up next, another LRG title. This is Horror Tales The Wine. This is basically a short first-person indie horror game, walking simulator, whatever you want to call it, puzzle solving, secrets, just a bunch of different stuff. It's a shorter game, and once I looked at the trailers and whatnot for it, I just thought it looked interesting. There's a few specific genres or combination of gameplay and visual style to certain horror games that I am just a sucker for. If they're first person, if they kind of have you moving through environments with an eerie mood to it around you, the atmosphere, foreboding, whether or not there's like combat, so to speak, or you're just running for your life or trying to be stealthy whenever there's something pursuing you, and then you're getting lore through, you know, notes or visual things, audio, tapes, whatever it may be, and you solve puzzles and whatnot here and there. I'm totally into that. So every time I see something like that come through LRG, 99 times out of 100, I'm going to grab it. So that's the story on that one. Looking forward to checking it out. Now, this is not an LRG game here. This I got from Video Games Plus, but just the title alone, I was sold. I had to check this one out. This is Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion. Basically just says take control of an adorable turnip who happens to be an absolute menace to society. Visual style of this is very like 32-bit Super Nintendo graphics, like the Legend of Zelda or something like that. Also kind of looks like Stardew Valley in some ways. But it just has you taking control of this little turnip guy and being a piece of crap, basically. Avoid paying taxes, solve fantastic puzzles, take on a massive beast in a journey to tear down a corrupt vegetable government. And I hear that they're working on a sequel or a follow-up to this, and I think it's Turnip Boy goes to jail or escapes from jail or something like that. So I'll be waiting to see if that gets a physical release that I can grab too. But in the meantime, at some point, I'll check out and see what kind of quirkiness is involved with that title. Okay, next thing I have up here is a game that I saw a long time ago pop up on Kickstarter, and I contemplated, like I do a lot of times. I'm not even 100% sure I've done a Kickstarter aside from Shenmue 3. But this one I didn't do the Kickstarter for, and then every once in a while I would hear those updates. They'd ripple through the gaming groups and websites, Facebook, etc. And I'd get some more updates about this game, and eventually it was coming out. This is the thing I love about the majority of Kickstarters, is even if you don't kickstart a game, you'll still have a chance to pick it up later on. Kickstarting is usually one, obviously you're helping to fund a project, but also you're going to get, some sort of perk for it. You might get a game early. Excuse me. In some cases, you might get it after the retail release, which sucks. But you might get a special case, box, artwork, extras that come along with a game. But anyway, this game is Curse of the Sea Rats, and they call this a Ratoidvania. That's clever marketing by the people who made the game or whatever. But it's just basically a Metroidvania style game with a very cool art style. As you can see on the cover there, it has a very animated look to it. I've heard some early reviews, or I guess at this point it's been out for a little while, so it's just regular reviews, that it actually isn't as good as people were hoping. The gameplay and the motion and action in it sluggish, or just not as good as they'd hoped. For some people, I even heard maybe a little bit of a lack of challenge in it. That doesn't ever apply to me. I love games to just be easy. Just let me go through and play the game and enjoy the world. So I'm not any less enthused about checking this game out after hearing some of the reviews that I have. I'm just, like I said, glad that it exists and that it finally came out. Okay, so this is going to be my last limited run game that came in for this month. This is one of a holy trilogy for some people. It's not necessarily for me. I'm very, very curious about all three of the games that I'm talking about. But this is Day of the Tentacle Remastered. As someone who... I didn't have a PC at the right time for games like this and the other two I was talking about, which is Grim Fandango and Full Throttle. I didn't have a PC at that time to get these games when they were out, but I heard of them back then, and I knew that they were at least cult classics at the time, and definitely over the years that's what they've grown to be. But to hear that they were going to come to modern-day consoles, PS4 at least, I was like, okay, now is my time to get these games. So I got Grim Fandango, but probably, it seems like at this point, probably 2 years ago or somewhere in that range. And now Day of the Tentacle Remastered is out. I also did pre-order Full Throttle Remastered through Limited Run Games. I'm still waiting for that one to come along. But very, very happy to have a chance to finally check out some of these Lucasfilm games, adventure titles from way back. Okay, and the last two things that I have to show are a couple of video games I got from Video Games Plus. But these were games that first of all, I don't know why at least one of these didn't get an NTSC English North American release. But it doesn't matter, these games have English on the discs, but they are Asian titles. I don't know if these are, I can't remember now if these are Japanese versions, if they're Chinese English versions. I don't recall off the top of my head now. But anyway, both of these games, interestingly enough, are Indonesian inspired or even made by Indonesian developers. But the first game that I'm going to show here is Dreadout 2. Sadly, Dreadout 1 doesn't have a physical release like this. In fact, I'm not even sure that it came to consoles. It may have only been PC. But the moment I saw that this was going to be pre-orderable on Video Games Plus's website, I said, I have got to get this because, and this is one of anybody who's watched these videos with consistency over the last couple of years, you may have realized how often I cite the last 11 years that I've been watching YouTubers, especially in the beginning in 2012 when I first started to watch a lot of YouTube and Let's Play YouTubers in particular, how often they would play these indie horror games and, you know, do the over-the-top reactions and all that. Well, the very first Dreadout was amongst those titles back in the day, where I saw several big names that some people would recognize and maybe some that people wouldn't recognize. They played the original Dreadout, and it just looked interesting to me. But what brings me to look at something like this and say, yeah, I want to buy this game and play it myself, was just because it takes me back to that time. It takes me back to the first couple of years that I was divorced and living here in this house, you know, and basically alone. And I would watch a lot of YouTubers because it was sort of a connection. Not everybody gets that, but it's sort of like sitting on the couch with a friend when they're playing a video game. And a lot of those folks were playing games that I would never get because I wouldn't know where to look, or I wouldn't discover them because I'm not a PC gamer all the time. And I think I had a different perspective on horror back then. I've always enjoyed a good horror game, but I think the last decade or so was when I was like, I'm going to take a chance on horror games, regardless of, you know, whether they have Resident Evil or Silent Hill or something on them. So anyway, that's my long-winded story as to why I got Dreadout 2. Coming to PS4, another cool game to put on the shelf, but also that, you know, interesting little connection that I have to the early days of YouTube. My early days of YouTube, you know. It was only a couple years before I put up my first video. Alright, and the second game here, and I'll mention, as I said before, about the Indonesian inspiration or whatever. This is an Indonesian horror game. I imagine it's taking place in Indonesia, or if Indonesia, I don't know if Indonesia is necessarily a place. Well, I'm just going to make myself sound stupid here. I just don't want to say Indonesia is a place when Indonesia may be, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. But the point is, this was an Indonesian horror game. And then this next game is also Indonesian, but it's not a horror game. It's a high school coming of age. It says on here, I'll just read off the back of this before I show it. A slice of life adventure game with beautiful pixel art set in the late 90s rural Indonesia. The game unfolds the meaning of overcoming anxiety and depression through the relationship between a boy and a girl with supernatural powers. It also says high school is ending and so is our world. Anyway, the game is A Space for the Unbound. A game I heard about while I'm watching, like, Kinda Funny, and I want to say Easy Allies, and a few other outlets like that. It's also a game that's been promoted recently by Shuhei Yoshida from PlayStation. And I remember it on, whether it was a State of Play or a PlayStation Showcase, or it may have even been on like a Nintendo Direct, but it has a very cool 16-bit sort of throwback art style to it. And it doesn't really necessarily look like a side-scrolling platformer or a Metroidvania, but your characters do move back and forth. But it doesn't, I don't know if there's a lot of what you would call combat, so to speak. It says, chat and interact with other townsfolk and listen to their stories. Explore rural Indonesia. Okay, well, there answers my question as to whether or not Indonesia is a nation or something else. Whatever it was that I was thinking. Explore rural Indonesia and enjoy its relaxing atmosphere with supernatural twists. Dive into people's minds, Inception style. It doesn't really specify, like, you're going to have combat. It's going to be turn-based, or it's action, or it's puzzle-based, or it's, you know, narrative-based. I imagine it's going to lean on some of the narrative aspects of it, so it may just be walking from place to place and talking to somebody and then moving on from there. But for whatever reason or another, from the moment that I saw this one was one I put it high up on my list of I need to check that out when I can. I hoped, let's just say at first that I hoped that it was going to be physical and not just digital, but I had resigned myself to I'll just get it digitally if need be. And then, like I said before, thank goodness for Video Games Plus having some of these import titles available on their website and pre-ordering and getting them from them. Alright, so that's A Space for the Unbound. That is my pickups for April. Some cool stuff in there. I think I might have sold this particular batch of pickups pretty hard on the last pickups video. I don't know if maybe I oversold it or not, but I mean, I think this was some pretty cool stuff. A CD, a couple of books. That doesn't happen very often, especially a strategy guide. Big shout out to my friend Theo once again for that book. And then the games. I thought there was a possibility of getting one or two more limited run games in that said on their website that they were in shipping or being prepared to be shipped. And I do believe that even at the time I did the last pickup video, I think I had an order with a movie company for some movies to come in, and I thought they would have been here by now, but I actually didn't get my tracking information for that order until I think it was sometime yesterday, Saturday the 29th, sometime early yesterday morning. So that'll be on next week or next month's pickup videos, and hopefully some more games too. So alright, that's it. I'm rambling as I usually do, so thanks for watching the video, and we'll see you next time.